Alright everyone, it's always funny to me when people talk about Fox News being conservative, principled. They talk about the mainstream media on their network, even though they are part of the lamestream media. It's funny because Trump has started to use that term, but I wish I could get him just once to use the term legacy media. Some staffer needs to remind him that that's a very good mimetic term. It'd be hilarious and build lots and lots of camaraderie with the clankers, by the way. But I love watching Fox News suffer in the ratings because they've completely tanked. And by the way, actually, apparently, I think it's CNN's parent company, they're looking to the possibility of selling off CNN because they've got problems too of this kind. The legacy media for months has refused to tell people what's actually going on. Now, really, they've been doing this for very many years. Way back in the Bush era, Fox was already spilling out pro-war propaganda. During the Obama era, you had explicitly marching orders being taken for CNN and groups. In the 2016 election, you'll remember that the Podesta emails, when they were dumped, they showed that the Clinton campaign openly coordinated with MSNBC to squish out negative news pieces that were questioning, I think it was Hillary Clinton's health at the time. So you've had this going on for a while, and it's like when CNN said, don't read the WikiLeaks releases, it's illegal, just let us read them and analyze them for you. It's blatant propaganda. It's blatantly false. Fox, though, in my mind, is actually the worst of them all, and has been. I've literally, at home in Rutland, I've still got a sticker on the window of what's now my office there, and the cat's itching herself, that says, turn off Fox. That's from back when I was a liberal, by the way. I think that was 2006, maybe? 2007 or something? Because it was pro-war propaganda. They were basically taking marching orders from the Bushites. And the Bushites and the Clintonians and all these people did the same thing. Don't think that the letter after a person's name really fundamentally means anything. So John Kasich will act like a Democrat, Mitt Romney will act like a Democrat, and Biden has acted consistently more like an evangelical Republican at times in the past. He's still obsessed with his Catholic faith now, as long as it'll get him more votes. But I think Fox is the worst, and here's why. Because it's the only one that pretends not to be part of the mainstream. Despite the fact that until, well, the latest ratings period, it was the largest of the cable news networks. And of course, as we see with Cavuto there and others squishing out tales of election fraud, or trying to spin stories with regards to Orange Man bad, or simply not telling people that they call Arizona days before it officially sort of gets clinched, and even now is slightly up in the air, I would argue, a pending SCOTUS decision potentially. From stem to stern, everything Fox does is a bunch of lies. And it's been happening for a long time. I remember there was this one picture from way back when, it was like 2009 or something. Like when I first got onto 4chan, Bill O'Reilly was talking about it, saying, oh, this far-left website, which is is trying to enable pedophiles or something like that. Far left, in context of 4chan, at the time was laughable and still is. Oh, it's like the most hilarious thing ever, because now I think it's supposedly like the home of the alt-right or something. Like, I guess it's Proud Boys Incorporated, so according to CNN and Fox and stuff. And then Bill O'Reilly, of course, had his Me Too moment in like 2015, and now he got sacked. Now he has a shitty podcast. Now he has a shitty show on YouTube, which I think has fewer viewers than I have. It's very funny to see the mighty fall. But Fox News is falling. And they deserve it, to tell the truth. Good riddance. It's propaganda. It's just like any other network. I love it when people say, well, I hate the mainstream media. I watch Fox. I hate the mainstream media. Neil Cavuto is my man. I hate mainstream networks. But Tucker Carlson is totally different. Yeah, he gets 8 figures for multinationalists and clearly squishes out stories that they don't want him to talk about. But trust me, just trust the plan. He knows what's going on. No, he doesn't. And even if he does, he's still muzzled. That's the way that it works in these networks. Money tends to corrupt things. That's why I like getting money from multiple people as opposed to having like a corporate sponsorship or something. I think that over time will corrupt creators as well. No matter how independent they are at the outset. You think that the pundits that are on Fox or CNN stuff, they started out in Fox and CNN? No, by and large, they started out in local affiliates. They went to journalism school, they got a local gig, maybe they were in radio, maybe they had their own independent thing going on, maybe they were a web personality. Some cases, they opened a website, they did something novel, something intriguing, and then somebody, some dude in a suit, really nice suit with a cigar, offers him one, says, hey, you know, I can make you 6 figures to start with a 7-figure sign-on bonus, and this person is, you know, used to clearing $40K a year with their radio show or something. Don't you think they jump at that offer 9 times out of 10? The problem is then they start living like they're a millionaire, because they are. And then they get used to that budget. And then when it gets down to it, most people are not willing to hold back their spending. And this becomes a problem, especially if you have to live like the high-rise penthouse style life because you are a heavy hitter at CNN or something. You have a lot of overhead. The fact that you might have a 7-8 figure salary doesn't really matter. So Tucker Carlson being rich, well, he's going to live like it. Hopefully he's squirreling away a lot of money, but there's a lifestyle he's accustomed to because of where he has to live and who he mills about with. And the same thing happens. These multinational firms, by the way, that own these corporations, whether it's Fox News, CNN, ABC, NBC, CNBC, all these, they're owned by multinationalists that don't have any specific loyalty in the U.S. Foreign firms. Do you think that all of the firms that operate in the UK are owned by British? Do you think that all Russian media firms are inevitably solely owned by Russians? Probably the only real exception would be like China, because in order to be state, you know, you have to have licensing from the state in China, and they're definitely going to prefer their own state-run media. The independent journalism that exists there is pretty scant. Other than a few countries, most nations have multinational corporate media outlets. CNN runs in Europe. Keep that in mind. Doesn't Fox run in Australia? They have their own. They have their upside down news networks. the kangaroo news, the koala news. Anyway, the Tarantula Times would come to mind actually for Australians. I like watching Fox suffer because they deserve it. It's funny when like sometimes when I post usually on Twitter when I'm trolling liberals, they're like, "Oh, well, you're ignorant. You just watch Fox News all day." I do? That's funny. I thought that I reamed them repeatedly. I think I talk more smack about Fox News than the average leftist does. And not without good reason. They're the worst. Because they fool people who otherwise might be kind of aware of the dangers of leftism into this milquetoast, very bland conservatism in name only. That's about all. Peace out.